Welcome back to another in our series of great chapters in the Bible. Our chapter today comes from the Old Testament book of 2 Chronicles. 2 Chronicles chapter 19, Jehoshaphat's reforms. Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, returned in safety to his house in Jerusalem. But Jehu, the son of Hanani, the seer, went out to meet him and said to King Jehoshaphat, "Should you help the wicked and love those who hate the Lord? Because of this, wrath has gone out against you from the Lord. Nevertheless, some good is found in you, for you destroyed the Asheroth out of the land and have set your heart to seek God." Jehoshaphat lived at Jerusalem, and he went out again among the people, from Beersheba to the hill country of Ephraim, and brought them back to the Lord, the God of their fathers. He appointed judges in the land in all the fortified cities of Judah, city by city, and said to the judges, "Consider what you do, for you judge not for man, but for the Lord. He is with you in giving judgment. Now then, let the fear of the Lord be upon you. Be careful what you do, for there is no injustice with the Lord our God, or partiality, or taking bribes." Moreover, in Jerusalem, Jehoshaphat appointed certain Levites and priests and heads of families of Israel to give judgment for the Lord and to decide disputed cases. They had their seat at Jerusalem, and he charged them, "Thus you shall do in the fear of the Lord, in faithfulness, and with your whole heart. Whenever a case comes to you from your brothers who live in their cities, concerning bloodshed, law or commandment, statutes or rules, then you shall warn them, that they may not incur guilt before the Lord, and wrath may not come upon you and your brothers. Thus you shall do, and you will not incur guilt. And behold, Amariah the chief priest is over you in all matters of the Lord, and Zebadiah the son of Ishmael, the governor of the house of Judah, in all the king's matters, and the Levites will serve you as officers. Deal courageously, and may the Lord be with the upright." Many years ago, I used to visit my neighbor Frank. Frank was, as they say, a self-made man. He had an elementary school education, 6th grade as I remember, but he had a keen mind for figuring things out. He was part of the greatest generation we read about that came out of the Great Depression. He worked at a shipbuilding yard in Bay City, Michigan, and constructed ships for the U.S. Navy. Once these vessels were completed, one of the tests was to take them out into the bay and put them at full cruising speed, and then, at a moment's notice, put them in full reverse and be able to stop at a very short distance. The reason? If a torpedo was headed towards the ship, she needed to be able to avert disaster by stopping immediately and changing course. It put tremendous strain on that ship, but it needed that maneuverability in order to survive. There's an old saying about changing direction of one of those super tankers out on the ocean. It can be done, but it takes a lot of time and energy to point them in another direction. Not as much as you think. You just have to know where to apply the pressure. So it is with big tankers, big organizations, big companies, and big countries. It's hard to change their direction. You can apply a lot of effort, a bit less effort, or a minimal amount of effort. But knowing where to apply the pressure is key to change. Jehoshaphat is one of those kings of Judah who did good overall. There weren't many, so he stands out among them. Unlike the northern kingdom of Israel, where no king was known for being good, although they occasionally would do something good, Jehoshaphat's father Asa had this written about him in 1 Kings 15:11. "And Asa did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, as David his father had done." And this is written about Jehoshaphat in 1 Kings chapter 22, verses 42 through 43. Jehoshaphat was 35 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 25 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Azubah, the daughter of Shilai. He walked in all the way of Asa his father. He did not turn aside from it, doing what was right in the sight of the Lord. Yet the high places were not taken away, and the people still sacrificed and made offerings on the high places. We also read in 2 Chronicles of Jehoshaphat's reign in 2 Chronicles 17, verses 3 through 6. The Lord was with Jehoshaphat because he walked in the earlier ways of his father David. He did not seek the Baals, but sought the God of his father and walked in his commandments, and not according to the practices of Israel. Therefore, the Lord established the kingdom in his hand, and all Judah brought tribute to Jehoshaphat, and he had great riches and honor. His heart was courageous in the ways of the Lord, and furthermore, he took the high places and the Asherim out of Judah. Now, this might be confusing to hear that he had destroyed the high places of the Asherim, and yet the people still sacrificed and made offerings on the high places. Jehoshaphat destroyed the high places of the idols, but people still sacrificed to Jehovah in the high places rather than in Jerusalem only. But Jehoshaphat goes about rehabilitating Judah in a way that is rather unique. He educates them. It is one thing to destroy the idols and high places dedicated to them. But if you don't educate and teach people the right way, they will simply go back to their old ways. Knowledge is the key. The first thing listed in 2 Chronicles 19:4 is, he went out again among the people from Beersheba to the hill country of Ephraim and brought them back to the Lord, the God of their fathers. Here's where knowing your geography of the region comes in handy. Beersheba was all the way to the south. Remember when they would declare when something to be from top to bottom in Israel, they'd say from Dan, way up north, down to Beersheba, the extreme south. Jehoshaphat goes from Beersheba in the south to the northern hill country of Ephraim. These were the extremes of Judah, geographically speaking, the southern kingdom he reigned over. He personally goes out among the people. But wait, there's more. He appointed judges in verses 5 through 7 in all the fortified cities. In no uncertain terms, he bids them to be just, for they are representing God, not man. But wait, there's more yet. Levites, priests, and heads of families are appointed to decide disputes. Jehoshaphat borrows a page from the playbook of Moses, so to speak, who himself learned the hard way that it is better to delegate than to wear yourself out needlessly. We read in Exodus 18, verses 24 through 26. So Moses listened to the voice of his father-in-law and did all that he had said. Moses chose able men out of all Israel and made them heads over the people, chiefs of thousands, of hundreds, of fifties, and of tens. And they judged the people at all times. Any hard case they brought to Moses, but any small matter they decided themselves. Paul rightly speaks when he tells us in his letter to the Romans, in Romans 15:4, for whatever was written in former days was written for our instruction, that through the endurance and through the encouragement of the Scriptures we might have hope. And again in his letter to the Corinthians in 1 Corinthians 10:11. Now these things happen to them as an example, but they are written down for our instruction, on whom the end of the ages has come. Yes, there is an abundance of wisdom there for the taking in the Old Testament. Jehoshaphat's methods sound a lot like what we read in the New Testament. Jesus himself taught this in Matthew 28:19 through 20. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. And behold, I am with you always to the end of the age. Paul taught this to Timothy in 2 Timothy 2:2. And what you've heard from me in the presence of many witnesses, entrust to faithful men who will be able to teach others also. Peter was earnest in his desire to pass on knowledge in 2 Peter 1:12 and 13. Therefore, I intend always to remind you of these qualities, though you know them and are established in the truth that you have. I think it right, as long as I am in this body, to stir you up by way of reminder. I read a chapter like this, and rather than rushing on to the next one, I take counsel in it and consider what the takeaways are here. First, change can come to a large group of people if you know where to apply the pressure. Second, go out among the people and meet them where they're at. Third, delegate, delegate, delegate. You can't do it all yourself. And fourth, remember, you're working for the Lord, not man. Now, what did you get from this chapter? And Lord willing, let's meet here again tomorrow and look at another of the great chapters in the Bible.